So welcome, and I hope you guys had an amazing Christmas, and it's so fun to be back in the swing of things with building, because I know around Christmas I do, slows down a little bit. You spend time with family, and then, I don't know, Christmas hits, and it's like I have this excitement and just renewed commitment to build again. And so that's why I wanted to do this Zoom call called Mind-Blowing Strategies. Now, it's a little bit of a play on words because, yes, I'm going to give you some strategies, but really, I think that 100% your success is your mindset. That's no secret. I think that we all know that being successful is 100%, where you are with your mind. And so really it's like the way your mind blows is the way you're going to be successful right now. So I'm going to talk about some of my favorite tips and tricks for succeeding. We're also going to evaluate this last year and talk about things that will help us be successful this new year. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to start from, I'm going to show you guys this PowerPoint. We're going to start from the beginning. Come on. Oh, slideshow. Play from start. Okay, so when I first created this last night, we were getting ready to come to Utah today. And I had this in red, and I felt like I was being yelled at. And I was like, I want this to be bold and so people understand this, but I don't really want it to have, I don't want anyone to feel like they're being yelled at per se. So hopefully this is a little softer. We got a little nice little star on here, but it gets the point across. Can everyone still hear me okay? It looks like it's frozen. Will you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? I'm just going to check. Okay, perfect. Sorry. I've gotten halfway through a Zoom call before and people are like, you were on mute the whole time. So I'm glad you can hear. If you know me personally, and most of you do, but some of you guys I know are people that I haven't connected with as much, and run into a problem, shoot me a text because I have it on full screen. Good night, Hazel. So first of all, my husband is out snowboarding, and as many of you guys know, he was in an accident on January 20th of this year. So I told him if he's going to get hurt snowboarding this season, it has to be today or tomorrow or the next day, because we reached our deductible January 20th. So I'm like, hey, if you're going to get hurt, do it today. But I don't want him to get hurt. I've also instructed him to call Lifeline if he gets hurt this time, because the ambulance took their time getting him to the hospital, and they thought he had a ruptured spleen. If you have a ruptured spleen, you could die very quickly. You could bleed out. So I'm like, and they just casually moseyed on in an ambulance. So I'm like, if you get hurt, do Lifeline. We're covered with insurance this year, and I want to make sure you're safe. So anyway, side note, as I'm looking at the snow. But first and foremost, I want to talk about doTERRA and the fact that it's an amazing opportunity. I am so grateful to be partnered with this company. I see so many new companies pop up, and, I see a lot of people that once did doTERRA start new companies. I'll see them join in with these other companies because I think sometimes people get excited about new and fresh and terms like ground floor. Well, those terms don't appeal to me, and I'll tell you why. I joined in when doTERRA was 2 years old, and yes, there was tons of room for growth at that time. I joined and I was member number 18,616, and that was in February of 2010. So they were almost 2 years old. 2 years later, I hit Diamond, and I changed numbers because I changed to an LLC, and at that time they had you change. And there was 250,000 people in doTERRA. Forward that to, I am on a call. You cannot interrupt me. Sorry. No more nice mommy here. My 7-year-old cannot interrupt me. So that was 4 years ago, and here we are with 4 million people. So, if you think about those first few years of doTERRA, they were tough. We were figuring out trainings. We were figuring out what we were doing. They didn't have books. And frankly, they didn't even have oils in the very beginning. I have been so impressed with our owners. You guys, we have been through a rough year. And I think many of us know that. We went through FDA. We had the hack. We had a lot of things happen that were very frustrating. But the fact that we've been so resilient and bounced back so quickly shows you the amazing company that you belong with. There's a company, and I won't mention names, but there was a company that had the FDA hit them 20 years ago in the early 90s. They lost 75% of their sales in the US, and they didn't recover. My volume, I haven't figured out the percentage that I'm ahead this month, but it's insane. Insane. I basically I'm hitting probably 400,000 in volume ahead of what I did this last month in November. And November was a record breaker for me too. So doTERRA is back on track. They're growing. The fact that they have been through things and you can see their strength is so huge. Think about a marriage. It's easy that first day you get married, you know, but you have kids, you go through tough times, and you can see what you can see what's going to make it and what's not. That might be too blunt, so I apologize if it is. But that's how I feel about doTERRA too, is, you know what? They've been around for 8 years. We have incredible owners. We're seeing amazing growth. They have been through some pretty tough stuff, and they've weathered it like champs. And I frankly can't even tell, looking at my team, that we've been through anything in the last year. So we are so lucky to be involved with this company. You know, I've seen other companies pop up that I've had friends make money with very quickly, and half their inventory is gone right now. Half. Can you imagine if you were selling oils and half of the stock was out? It would be devastating to your paycheck. So again, I look at these owners and I'm like, wow, brilliant when it comes to inventory control and making sure that we have, you know, enough oils and enough, you know, plants to make sure that sounds funny, enough plants, but to make sure that we're going to be able to stay, to be able to keep up with the supply that we have. And they've been so brilliant at it. So you are with such a great company, and I'm so grateful to be with doTERRA. And quite frankly, it's still so new. I was talking to my neighbor, and he was like, I don't know. I mean, he was like totally taking a stab in the dark. But he's like, so pretty much 1 out of every 100 people in the US is enrolled. You guys, we have such a long way to go. And that doesn't even scratch the surface of what's going on worldwide. 1 out of 100 people. So if you ever feel like this is saturated, you may be in a town that's saturated. You know, there are some states that are a little more saturated than others, but my goodness, there is still so much room to grow, and it's all in your mind. And I'm going to talk a lot about myself today, not because I think I'm all that amazing or wonderful, but because I'm going to tell you some of the things I've been through and the shifts that I have seen just from changing my mindset. So I am so incredibly grateful to be on board with doTERRA. There is no other company that I would rather be in on, even if I was on the ground floor, because I love doTERRA. So I want you to stop and think about your 2016 and really take time to evaluate how it went for you. And if you want to grab a pen and paper or pull out a laptop or write on your iPad or your phone, that's great. But I want you to answer these questions, and I want you to really think about it. I want you to think about how your 2016 went overall. And then I want you to think about what went well that you want to continue on for 2017. And you can even give yourself a, you know, just for the sake of time, on a scale from 1 to 10, how did it go in 2016? And what went well that you want to continue on with? Because, you know, there are some great things that I've seen many of you guys do. November alone, I had one of my teams in Ohio absolutely like explode. Their volume doubled, and they had incredible volume, and it doubled. I saw 2 new platinums. I saw several new silvers, elites. It was amazing. It's a mindset thing, which is awesome. So some of you guys are on an amazing track, and others, you're so close to being on an amazing track. And it's just a little shift of a mindset that we're going to talk about. So what went well that you want to continue for 2017? And then I want all of you guys to pick 3 habits that you want to ditch from 2016. And I want you to write those down right now. So I hope you're thinking of 3 things that you wanted to ditch from 2016. And I'll share mine with you guys in just a minute. I want you to think about the goal that you set for yourself at the beginning of last year. Did you achieve your goal? And why did you achieve your goal? Or how come you didn't achieve your goal? And maybe you got partway there, or maybe you saw certain things, because I have certain goals. I want this number of rank advancements. I want this volume. I want this rank. And certainly I reached some things and I didn't reach in other ways. So if you reached your goal, I want you to seriously give yourself a big pat on the back and congratulate yourself. This was a little bit of a tougher year, but man, the momentum is back and it's exciting. So I want you to analyze why you feel like you were so successful in achieving your goals this last year, and make sure that you recreate that for this next year. And I want you to think about the success habits that you created. What are you doing that's working well for you? I'm kind of getting that little nudge again for myself to reevaluate my schedule and really put my time and energy into things that grow the business. And I'm also recreating my commitment to build and not just lead. I had 7 enrollments last month. 7. That's awesome for me because typically I have about 1 a month, and I decided that I was ready to build again and bring on, and when I say build, I'm always very involved, very, very active with doTERRA, but making that commitment to build again was huge for me. And it's amazing when you start enrolling again to watch your team start enrolling again as well. It's awesome. So what did you do to celebrate success? And are you ready to push yourself again this next year? So if you achieved your goal, that is so awesome. Now, I want to talk about some of the things that I did this last year that have been successful for me. And I am going to talk a little bit of the challenges that I've been through, but I want to talk about what I did well first. I moved to Utah 3 years ago, and I had it in my mind that I couldn't build here. I was like, it's going to be tough. Everybody's heard of doTERRA. There are so many powerful people in doTERRA, and many of them are already enrolled. They're already doing this. If this is maxed out, we have this recorded so you guys can listen to this later. So that'll be the good news. And I'm so sorry if it's maxed out, but thanks for joining in. But I had it in my mind that I couldn't build here in Utah, and I manifested for myself. Like, yes, I absolutely saw growth on my team. I continued to enroll. I picked up new builders along the way, but I really held myself back because of my limiting beliefs. And I'm so grateful that I was able to really identify them and really focus on them and work on them and realize, what on earth am I so afraid of that I am coming up with these crazy reasons why I can't succeed in my mind when clearly I can. I started sharing more. I moved to Kansas City, and for me, there are some great things about Kansas City, but it was all a mindset shift that I was so proud of myself for having. Again, I started to really renewed my efforts to build instead of just constantly relying on my leaders. You know, I would do these mentor calls and talk to people and say, okay, if you get this many enrollments this month, this can be a fun incentive that we can do for you. But I thought, Jen, when are you going to start enrolling like that again? And so I really have doubled down on my efforts to enroll, and I am bringing in enrollments. And it's so fun. I love building. Now, when I talk about building, there's like sharing, building, leading. I love building. I love it. I love doing classes, getting people enrolled, booking classes off of classes. I love that. And I'm starting to do that more. And it's amazing to see what's happening on my team. Another thing that is huge is quit blaming your others when you're not reaching your goal. We can all do it. We can say, oh man, if Sally, and this is a made up name, I'm not thinking of anybody in particular. I try to pick a generic name, but if Sally would just start building again, I would be doing so well right now. Well, guess what? This is your business, not Sally's business. And if you want to reach a certain place, you can't don't give that kind of power to someone else on your team. This is definitely a team thing, and it's important for you to believe in your leaders. But if you have somebody who is not in this as much as you are, you need to make sure that you do what you need to do to get there. Maybe you need to find a new leader. Maybe you need to add in new leaders into that leg. Maybe you need to have a frank conversation with that builder just to see where they're at. But you need to quit blaming others for not reaching your goals. Do we all have a leg that drives us crazy because it's a weak leg? Yes, we do. We absolutely, every last person in doTERRA has a leg that's maybe not as strong as others, that's difficult. But the moment that we start blaming that person, instead of looking into ourselves, we're slowing down our growth. I was talking to my husband yesterday, and he asked me, what did you do to go from Premier to Silver? And I was like, you know what? I did not look at my leaders and think, okay, I've got these 3 builders and they need to do all the work. I didn't even do mentor calls back then, you guys. I didn't even check in regularly with my builders. Not that I'm an advocate of that. I didn't do trainings. I didn't check in with my builders. I got out there and I shared. I got out there. I remember I was starting a new team in Boise. I drove out to Boise almost every other week. I took my little 18-month-old baby with me, and we drove to Boise almost every other week, stayed with my grandparents. We had a great time. I saw tremendous growth on my team. I signed up in February of 2010, and I really didn't do much. I put maybe 30 minutes a week into doTERRA, and then I did maybe 3 classes that year. And that next year, I realized, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to quit this whole, well, that's so great that some people can hit silver, but it's just not for me. That next year, I don't know what happened, but a year in, I decided I'm going to do this and I'm going to go big with this. And I was a silver within just a few months. I was gold by the end of that year. So within a year, I was a gold. And then 6 months after being a duct tape gold, I was a diamond. And do you want to know why? It was because I did not rely on others and blame others. I figured out what I had to do to get there. I did classes. We worked together as a team. And that is when I saw the most growth in my team, is when I wasn't just expecting others to do it. I was down in the trenches doing it with them. That is when I saw my most growth. And so that is why I am doing that again this year, because I want to see that kind of growth again. Yes, I'm seeing growth, and I have leaders that have absolutely taken off and been amazing, but I want to have that same growth for myself as well. All right. So if you did not achieve your goal in 2016, I want you to ask yourself a few questions so that we can figure out why. Was it because you didn't know what to do? And maybe you just barely started and you're like, I literally had no idea what to do. And the next thing I knew, I was being told I couldn't post on Facebook, and I couldn't use words like cough, cold, flu, and you might have been confused. If someone has called in, and if you'll mute yourself, that would be super helpful. Okay. All right. So maybe you didn't know what to do. Now, if you didn't know what to do, is it because you were using that as an excuse, or you genuinely didn't know what to do? Because I'll tell you a little bit of my story. I signed up in February of 2010, and I didn't know a thing. There was no training. There was no Share Success. There was no Edge system. There were no wellness consults. There was nothing. And yet that is when I grew the most, because I got out there and I figured out what to do. I looked at the comp plan and I was able to figure it out. Now, there are still some things that I'm, like dynamic compression. I understand it, but I can't really explain it that effectively. So there are things that we're still picking up on, and the whole leadership shares, like I know how much they are, but where that comes from. Yeah, there's a few things I'm still learning, but I figured it out myself. You are in charge of your success. Nobody else is in charge of your success. It is not up to your upline. It is not up to the person who signed you up to make sure you're successful. It is up to yourself. And yes, having programs and someone holding your hand is absolutely amazing, and it can make it easier. But this is also for you. This is a chance for you to take your success in your own hands and make it happen. So, I really do want you to identify why you didn't succeed this last year, if you didn't. Now, I'm going to be blunt for just a moment, because I read a really inspiring post from another leader in doTERRA, and she was talking about her mentor calls, and she talked about how she would be talking with leaders and she was hearing the same things over and over again, and I had that at times too, where I was, and we all do, where we're like, you don't say what you want to say because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And she's like, I wasn't doing them favors. I wasn't doing myself favors. I was wasting my time. And just being blunt and just sharing, someone saying, you know what, I absolutely love you. But here's what I really think, and here's what I feel about what's going on. You can make so much more progress in your business. And some of you, I've had that conversation with. And you know what? We're in a stronger place now, aren't we? Because we had that conversation. So if you're using your kids as an excuse, if you're using your job as an excuse, if you're using things as an excuse, those are excuses. They're absolutely excuses. Some of the biggest and best leaders in doTERRA have 7 children in homeschool. And they're amazing parents. I'm going to just put her name out there for you. Melody Watts. Okay, guys, I signed her up. She was dealing with some pretty serious legal things. Her husband told her he was going to divorce her. She had to take care of some personal matters and was unable to build for a few months. Her mom passed away. She lost her home. I believe her home went into foreclosure. I'm not exactly sure, but I know she lost her home, and she is a presidential diamond. Now, you tell me that she didn't face obstacles and have it hard, but she had a desire to succeed at this, and so she did. It's like the month I decided to hit diamond. I knew I was probably going to be having my twins that month, and I figured out how to do it. So if you're using an excuse like your kids, or you just had a baby, or you're pregnant, dig deep and find out why you're resistant. I mean, and yes, do we have times that we slow down? Absolutely. When I had my baby last year, I did slow down for about a month. But if that is your excuse for an entire year, we need to figure out and reevaluate what's really holding you back, and why is this a convenient excuse for you? So, not to hurt anybody's feelings or make you feel like your job as a mother or having a job is important, because it totally, totally is. But doTERRA is a stepping stone to make you a rock star mom, to do whatever you're doing and be better at it, because you're going to be able to have the financial means to support yourself even more, which is huge. So I really do want to, we're going to spend an entire week talking about limiting beliefs and what's truly holding you back. But if you're still unsure, like, man, why didn't I hit my goals this last year? And it may be, you know what, I just wasn't committed. And that's okay. But it may be that, oh my gosh, I have something holding me back and I can't figure out what it is. I want you to get The Big Leap. It's one of my favorite books, and another program that's a great program to do. And Melody, will you shoot me a text? Are they still doing Deep Dive? Because that's another really great program that will go in there and really help you uncover those limiting beliefs. I uncovered a limiting belief this last year, and that was, I was afraid, you know, I've been very successful with doTERRA. Let's see what the answer is. Yes. So next time you see Deep Dive, you guys do it. It's like, I can't remember how much it is, but it's a little over $100, I believe. And it's life-changing. I was able to uncover some huge things. Super cheap. Yeah. Melody says it's super cheap. Some huge things for me, because again, this last year I have thought myself, it's been in my head, what is going on up in this head right now? Because I have overcome some huge things to get where I am, but why am I stalling out right now? Yes, my team's growing. Yes, I'm seeing some great things, but what is going on? And so I did Deep Dive, and I uncovered a couple of things. And one thing is, what my family thinks of me is hugely important to me. And my family values sports. They value performance. They value music and achieving certain things. And for me, I'm not an athlete. I really like watching them, but I'm not an athlete. And so I constantly feel like I'm falling short. And so here I am, and I have been very successful with doTERRA, but I don't feel like my family values it. And I have felt myself pulling myself back. It seriously is like The Incredibles, where you see that little dash boy running and his mom's like, go, 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 go. Okay, not so fast, not so fast. Second place, second place. Like, that's what I felt myself doing with my family, because I didn't want to completely go crazy. And so that was one thing, and I learned it is okay to be different and still succeed. And the other thing is I have a money block. Yes, I've created a multiple six-figure income, and I'm almost to the point where I'm making 7 figures. I'm doing really well, but I'm afraid it's like the more money that I make, the further I have to fall. Like, if you're dirt poor and you're working at McDonald's and you lose your job, big deal. You can go work at Pizza Hut, right? You can go work at the skating rink. You can do whatever. But when you're making a multiple six-figure income, it can be scary. And many of you may be facing that at a smaller level. So the point is the Deep Dive was a huge thing for me to figure out what is holding me back. And then the next thing is having the guts to overcome it. And that is huge. So, you know, this last year was a tough year for me. My husband was almost killed in a snowboarding accident on January 20th. And he actually just told me, I found out 2 days ago that they initially, when they got to the hospital, they like rushed him into the trauma thing. They were worried he'd ruptured his spleen. He was bleeding to death. He was not bleeding to death, but they didn't know. And I'm glad that I didn't know this until like, a year later. But it was tough for me. I had a 2-month-old baby. My husband was bedridden for about a month. And then for the next 2 months after that, he still couldn't walk. I had my family pretty much tell me that I needed to rely on my church. I had my in-laws tell me that I could just feel some resistance there as well. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this on my own. And yet, you know, the funny thing is that is not what slowed me down in my business. It was my mindset. It wasn't what was going on. And that was pretty crazy. It was absolutely my mindset. I didn't achieve some of my goals. And I constantly have found myself comparing myself to others. You know, there are other people in doTERRA that have, you know, I'm like, man, I was a diamond when they were like a silver, and now they're a presidential diamond, you know. But comparing myself to others is like the most dangerous thing you can do. I'll never forget what Emily Wright talked about at convention a couple years ago. And she said, one of the most dangerous things you can do is compare yourself to somebody else's end when you're at the beginning. You know, and I know that some people, you look at that big leader in doTERRA that you look up to and you think, oh my gosh, I'm not as good as them, or I'm not as, okay, people, seriously, I signed up with doTERRA and there were some amazing blue diamonds. And I looked up to them. So I was like, I almost idolized them. And I was like, man, this is so crazy. And then I was able to hit that rank. And then I started comparing myself to others. And that's really like one of the most dangerous things you can do. So don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself and track yourself. How am I doing? So yes, this last year was a little bit of a rough year. I had a lot of emotional things go on for me, and it really just stalled my business in my mind. I did some counseling, some therapy. I did some things to really move forward. And, you know, funny enough, it is 100% the mindset that really gets you to where you want to be. So I had the opportunity to go to Eric Worre's GoPro this last year. It was actually about a month ago, and Tony Robbins was there. Okay, seriously, that was like a workout class and motivational speaker all at once. Like I was jumping up and down, I was screaming, I was celebrating goals that I'm going to achieve this year. It was great fun. But one thing that he said that really stood out to me is that the obstacle becomes the way. And I had to remind myself that, because my biggest thing this last year is I kept telling myself, I found myself reverting. Can you please mute yourself if you've logged in? Okay. Anyway, I kept feeling like I wasn't, I mean, I just like felt like I had reverted back to high school, feeling like people didn't like me, feeling like something was wrong with me, feeling like, meeting somebody and thinking, oh, what do they really think of me? Or, oh, they don't like me, or what I'm saying is wrong, or what I'm doing is wrong. And constantly feeling like that. And that was such a hard feeling for me. And I was battling it constantly this last year. And I reminded myself, Jen, you are not a victim. If you choose to be a victim, it will stall out in your business big time. And I love the quote, the obstacle becomes the way. I am a sexual abuse survivor. 3 years, from ages 5 to 8, I was sexually molested. It absolutely destroyed my abilities to have relationships. And my husband was my first healthy relationship I had at 26 years old. And even that was terrifying for me because I was so afraid of getting hurt. I have ADHD, which there's things that I absolutely love it because I have high energy. I can do a lot of things at once, but buckling down and focusing can be so difficult sometimes. Wasn't well liked as a child because I was obnoxious. I had all this energy and I had all these things to say, and I had a hard time tactfully putting those things together. And so I look at myself and one of my gifts and that I have in life, I believe we all have talents and gifts, is my ability to use my hurdles as a stepping stone and not an obstacle, not something that stops me from doing it. And I have, there's other personal things that I won't share, but we all have this life that's been a journey for us. And we have two options. We can let those be things that are keeping us from building because it's just too tough and I can't and my life's been so hard, or they can be stepping stones. And I was talking to a neighbor the other day about being molested as a little child, and I don't know that I would take it back. I would never wish it upon anybody or wish it upon any of my kids. But I don't know that I would take it away from myself because of the person that it has turned me into and this person that it's created. And I have learned that I can do tough things. And it's just been in this last year that I started to question that. And I'm so excited that I've been able to have those breakthroughs. And that is so badly what I want for you guys this year in your business, because getting yourself in a tough place mentally is going to be the biggest thing for you. That is what is going to be huge for you, is overcoming those limiting beliefs. And I'm going to give you the skill set as well. But what I've learned is that if people really want to do this business, they're going to do it, whether or not they have somebody holding their hand. I didn't have much guidance, and therefore some of my leaders didn't have much guidance. I look at Scott and Cheyenne Hathaway. I was clueless what I was doing the day they signed up, and here they are, diamonds. But they had a will, and so they had a way. They figured out what to do. I have other builders that are the same, but they were like the first child, where you're like, have no clue what you're doing, and you're really grateful you didn't screw them up. That's how I feel about the very first people that I signed up. I've fought with them. I have argued with them about their way of building and telling them it's wrong. We've been through so much together, and we have a stronger than ever relationship. It's really been great. But I want you guys to look at your obstacles in your life and turn them into stepping stones. Stop using them as excuses. Stop using them as, acknowledge them, get it out, but use them as stepping stones because it is so powerful and so huge. And can I tell you the most powerful experience in my life? Sorry, I hate getting emotional, but it's being able to forgive the person who took advantage of me for 3 years, who was a teenager, and having literally no ill will towards him, no grudges, no anger. My husband has a great relationship with him now. He's talked to him twice, but they've been great. Is that power to forgive and use my past to move forward. And I want that so badly for all of you guys in your business. So find out what's holding you back and use it as stepping stones. And I do believe that the deep dive and the big leap are going to be some of the best things that you can do. Some great tools. Sorry about this nice red line we have. Okay, so let's talk about 2017. I really do want to talk about what we can do for this year, because really I really do want you to dig deep. And there are people who are much more powerful than I at getting you to pull out those things that have been painful for you and using them as stepping stones to move forward in your business and in your life. But there are some fun strategical things that you can do to be successful in your business. And I think one of the first things that you need to do is decide, is this a hobby or is this a business? Because if you're treating this as a hobby, or if you're frustrated you're not advancing in your rank and moving forward, but you're treating this as a hobby, that is going to be, it's going to make it hard to have full-time results on part-time efforts. You know, if you're just choosing this as a hobby. And now, if you're using this as a hobby and that's what you like, good for you. I think that's amazing. You know, for me, this was a hobby in the beginning, and it met my needs that first year. And then I realized I wanted more. I wanted to change more lives. Mostly I wanted to change my own life. So I turned this into a business. I treated it like a real business, and I got out there, rolled back my sleeves, and I got in the trenches and I started digging. That's what I started doing. And that's why I am where I am now. So I want all of you guys to set a goal of what you want to accomplish this year. It's a really fun time to think, okay, what do I want to accomplish this year? And I know many of us have set goals and failed and feel frustrated, but I still want you to set some goals that are going to help you move forward. So set a goal that you want to be in 30 days. Now for me, my 30-day goal is something that's manageable, achievable. I want a certain number of classes. I want a certain number of enrollments. And I'm setting a goal to stick with my schedule because I want to reevaluate that schedule at the end of January and see how it's working for me. Set a 90-day goal. I want you to bump up your volume by pick a certain percentage that you want to bump up your volume, or maybe you want to hit a new rank. And then I want you to have a goal that you want to be by the end of this year. Yet again, Richard and I, we're going for Presidential Diamond this year. And this year, my mind is in the right place. And if I can keep it in the right place, it will happen. If I choose to let it slip, it won't happen. It's up to me to overcome those things that have stopped me and move forward. So I've got to decide how bad I want it. So I hope that you guys can really commit for sure. I want you to set a schedule that will allow you to achieve your goals. Now, we're going to do a 4-part little series in January, and I've invited 3 of my builders to do it with me, and I'll tell you about it in a minute. But the first thing I'm going to talk about next week is really scheduling your success, because it's huge. It's interesting to me how often and maybe it's just me, but sometimes I feel a little bit, like people are looking at me and, oh, she has a house cleaner and she has a nanny and she has an assistant and she has this, that, and the other. Guys, I didn't start that way. I started sending my child to a $3 an hour babysitter, and she came home smelling like fried chicken every day. And I certainly didn't have an assistant. I certainly didn't have a house cleaner, but I got myself to a point where I could afford those things, and it created and freed up so much time for myself, which was huge. So I want you guys to make sure that you're setting a schedule. And I'm going to talk about some of the tips of things that I've done so that you can achieve your goals, not working crazy hours either. That is my passion as a builder, is showing people, look, you guys, I have 4 kids. I moved twice in this last year. My husband was almost killed in an accident. I had a new baby. It was a pretty tough year. And if you will treat this and get yourself on a schedule, you can overcome some pretty huge things to be successful still. Those things won't hold you back. You can keep going. So set your office hours. I want you to just set a schedule. Okay, how many hours a week are you going to work? How many classes do you want on a monthly basis? What are you going to do to network? How are you going to go meet more people? And one challenge I want to give everybody this year is find a way to go be with people who are better than you and intimidate the heck out of you. Because that, for me, is where the growth happens. When I am willing to go and surround myself with the people that intimidate me, push me, move me along, that's when I see growth in my business. Sometimes it's so easy to be the big fish in the little pond, and it's way more important to be the little teeny fish in a huge pond. That's what you want to do. So go figure out a way. When are you going to network? When are you going to increase your network? You can join, and one thing that helps me is when I can take the focus off my business and put the focus on just meeting new people. Because you guys, they'll enroll. And many of them will build. But when you can get that pressure off you in your mind and get out there, I'm going to go make friends and meet people, it's huge. When I moved to Kansas City, it's like every person I met, I'm like, okay, I have to have the perfect conversation because I have to tell them about oils. They have to enroll and they're going to build, and I'm going to hit like triple Presidential Diamond this year. And I was almost like this zombie. When I was able to say, look, I'm going to move out to Kansas City. I'm going to formulate real, genuine, authentic relationships and friendships. That's the month I had 7 enrollments. And I have 2 classes booked off of that. And it's been fun and it's been real. But it's getting out there and figuring out, when am I going to create opportunities to network with other people? And we've talked about specific strategies for that, quite often, joining moms groups, meetups, women's network, just finding a way to be around other people. And then you also need to put into your schedule when you are going to nurture your team. That's huge. You need to nurture your builders and you need to nurture your users. You just want to make sure that that's not what you're spending all of your time on. Because I will tell you that when my business grows, it's when I roll back my sleeves and get in the trenches. So yes, we absolutely, having leadership things is huge, but also continuing to build as well. So make sure that you set yourself a schedule. You're going to set your office hours. You're going to decide how many classes you want a month. When are you going to network and meet new people? And what are you going to do to nurture your team? All right, here's the fun thing about this business. You get to pick who you work with, and that's huge. And it's fun. I have 6 amazing people on my front line that I get to work with. I talk to, some of them are at a point in their business where they're flying on their own and I'm learning from them. And some of them are in a place where they need a little bit more nurturing, but I picked who went on my front line. I picked who I got to work with. That's amazing. It's such a fun feeling. So who are your key players and what are you doing to develop them and work with them right now? But more importantly, who are your key players who are not on your team just yet? That's one important thing that I have learned from Tiffany Peterson is, and we went shopping the other day and she really did. She's always got this little coach inside of her, even if you're not on the clock for coaching, where she talks about strategies. And she's like, Jen, I want you to make that list of the people who are not on your team that you want to work with. You've got some really great people on your team, obviously, that you've picked and you've chosen, but who's not on your team yet that you want on your team? And I'm saying team is in doTERRA, but also think about a sports team. Your 3rd grade, excuse me, you have the chance to pick your basketball team and everybody gets to go back. I pick so-and-so, I pick so-and-so, I pick so-and-so. Who are the people you want on your team? And why are they not on your team yet? Now, it's important that we have to be careful to not just go up and ask them to build with us. But, I had my eye on my husband a long time before he actually asked me out. And I didn't just go straight up to him and say, I think you're hot. I think you should ask me out. I was pretty aggressive and, because it's me, let's be honest, and he's not as aggressive, but I took my time. I thought about it. I figured out a way to catch his eye and get to know him and do that with the people that you want to sign up to be your business partners. Seriously, you guys, when you have a successful business and your friends create a successful business too, it is so much fun. So much fun to be able to go do fun things with those friends or see them at the incentive trips or see them at leadership, or it's super, super fun. So who are your key players that are not there yet? And what are you doing to find them? That's going to be huge. What are you doing to find them? And what are you doing to surround yourself by them? Because if you're not surrounding yourself by them, it's going to get really difficult for them to want to be around you and do what you're doing if you're not around them. And then are you surrounding yourself with people who are better than you? Like I said, sometimes big fish, little pond, really easy to fall into. More important, little fish, big pond with bigger fish than you that you can learn from. I've always looked up to Teresa Harding for, she enrolled Elise Shedevy, and Elise Shedevy is a very powerful businesswoman. And Teresa is very powerful in her own right, but she didn't have the business experience and she was not intimidated by Elise. She went and found powerful people, and that is why she is where she is in the business. She found powerful, influential people. And whether or not she put tons of time and effort into nurturing and mentoring them, it didn't matter. She had the right players on her team, and that was huge. So surround yourself with the people that you want to be working with. Now, the 3 things I'm really focusing on this year, again, and I've kind of mentioned this a couple of times, is recruiting. And I hate that word because it sounds so network marketing-ish, but that's finding your people. What are you doing to meet more people? That's expanding your network like that we just talked about, finding your users, builders, sharers, whatever. So what am I doing to develop that this year? My goal when I get back to Kansas City is to find a group to join. I want to find other powerful women because I want them to influence me. I want to learn from them. And, it would be a bonus if they decided to partner with me and do doTERRA, but I want to find a place to go meet more powerful women. And then finding booths, things like that. Now, the other thing I want to focus on is nurturing my users. And one thing that I'm really doing this year is I have brought on a social media specialist that is going to be opening my website for me soon. And we did a lot of rebranding, and it's jennoldham.com. It's not open just yet, but it's just going to focus on nurturing my users, and it actually will have an aspect that focuses on nurturing my builders as well. So that's what I'm doing to nurture my users. Now, you don't need to hire a social media specialist and do all that, but find what you are doing to support your team. I look at, sorry, I'm kind of a name dropper, but I'm just so darn proud of some of you guys. But Allison Price, she does an excellent job of nurturing her team. She has a monthly meeting. She does a great job running her Facebook. She does a great job of nurturing her users and her builders. So think about what you can do to nurture who you currently have on your team. Let them know you appreciate them. Let them feel cared for. And then obviously you want to nurture your builders as well. You want to point them into the right directions and resources. So every month, that is my focus. What am I doing to meet more people? How am I helping those who are currently using? And how am I doing to help those advance their business that are building with me? Now, guys, I've got your back. If you're feeling overwhelmed, like, oh my good heavens, where do I even start? If you're just brand new, don't worry about formulating all that for yourself. Work with the person who got you going. I have done a Train to Elite that I really like, using a launch guide. I absolutely love it. And we have it automated, and it's on Synduit. So Melody Watts is the genius behind getting Synduit really popular with doTERRA, and she's worked really hard with the owner of that to make this an amazing tool for us. It's an automated, there we go, there's a made up word for you, but it's an automatic system that helps you to create campaigns that you can send to your team. So let's say that you have like a training you want all your new builders to listen to. You put it automatically into a campaign, and they get the email every single week. So I've got the launch guide. We broke it down at over 6 weeks and went through it. If you need that, I've got it. I'm going to do a 4-week training this January, and I am going to be working with Allison Price, Jess Roberts, and Stephanie Brown. Those are 3 of my builders that I was really mindful about each one that I picked. So the first week in January, we are going to talk about creating time for your business and scheduling your success. And I'm going to teach you some of my tips, tricks, and strategies for being successful and doing this part-time. I do not do this 40 hours a week. I have 4 kids. They are my priority. That is who I focus on mostly, but I still rock this business because I've learned how to maximize my time and be really effective with it. So I'm going to teach you my tips. The next week, we're going to have Jess Roberts talk about overcoming limiting beliefs. And she's going to do an hour-long or 30 minute to an hour-long Zoom just on overcoming your limiting beliefs. Dive even deeper than what I did. And then I'm going to have Allison Price, who just hit platinum in November. She is going to talk about creating strategy for your month, strategizing a month and hitting your goals. She is amazing at looking at her back office, seeing what she needs to do, where the volume needs to come in, who's doing what, getting a newsletter out, getting classes. She's running a well-oiled machine, and I want her to teach you guys what she does because she's amazing. And then I have Stephanie Brown, who's going to talk about nurturing your users and your shares. So she is my newest builder that just came in, and she has some pretty amazing, what is the word I'm looking for? She's just intuitive when it comes to being a leader and nurturing who she's got going on, who's building on her team. So she's going to talk about creating working with your leaders to create success. So we're going to do those. Are going to be the 4 things that we cover in January. I'm going to be doing a monthly kickoff. And what we're going to do is we're going to just go through what the promos are this month, some ideas for maximizing those promotions, things that you might do on your own if there's not a promotion with doTERRA that month. We're going to plan our months together. We're just going to kick off the month. And then I want to do a mid-month review with all of you to make sure, how's this going? Are you achieving your goals? What do we need to do to make sure that you're getting there, and to just keep you on track. So I've got your back. We've got some good things going for you. If you're feeling brand new, don't feel overwhelmed by any means, because honestly, work with your mentor and you can rock this business as well. So I have some assignments for you. First of all, I want you to commit to being successful. You guys, most of you, and when I say most of you, some of you, there may be some people on here that are brand new and they're like, dang, I'm not really sure what to do with this business. But most of you know exactly what to do. You're just not doing it for one reason or another. That's the camp that I fall into sometimes. For some reason or another, I'm not committing like I should. So if you can commit to this business, you're going to be a lot more successful. It's kind of funny how that works. This is a tricky business to be accidentally successful in. You need to commit and be willing to do the work. So I want you to commit. What is your goal this year? And are you going to do it? Or are you going to let your excuses get in the way? Are you going to let your victim mode kick in? Are you going to let your kids be your excuse? Are you going to be the fact that you're working another job be your excuse? Or are you going to achieve your goals? Now, that doesn't mean you're setting crazy goals you can't achieve because you do have kids or because you are working, but don't set your goal that you can achieve and don't let those things be your excuse. So I want you to commit. I love the weekly pipes thing that they have in the launch guide. It really helps you to figure out how many new contacts you're making that week, how many classes you're going to be doing, what kind of mentoring you're doing, your personal development. So the pipes is huge. And you can find that on sharesuccess.com. If you don't have a mentor, find somebody that you can work with. And more than anything, I want you to have a mentor so you can have somebody that's being accountable, that's holding you accountable, because that's huge. You know, I was even talking with my husband about that. I'm like, I don't have a mentor. I don't have anybody holding me accountable. So find somebody to help you along your journey and hold you accountable. Oh, and yes, I want you to commit to being successful. It's scary. I'm sitting here like, okay, man, did I really just say that out loud that I want to hit Presidential Diamond this year? Did I really just say that out loud? Because now they know. Now I really got to do it. And then I start having these things pop in my mind of why I can't do it. And I have to say, no, I can do it. I have been through tough stuff. If I can go through some of that stuff I've been through, I can hit Presidential Diamond this year. I know how. It's just, am I ready in my head? So I invite you guys to join me in committing this year to achieve your goals. And I appreciate you so much for being on. That was a nice long, almost hour Zoom call. And I appreciate you for letting me be vulnerable with you. It's always kind of scary to get off a Zoom call and be like, wow, I just told him that. I was welling up with tears while I talked about that certain portion of my life. But thank you for allowing me to do that. And thank you for being a safe place and using it to propel you forward in your business. So Richard and I look forward to, Richard just got back from snowboarding. Everyone say, hi, Rich, we're glad you're alive still.
Didn't hit a tree, so we're good.
He actually went and visited the tree last week that he hit. Were you mad at the tree?
Yeah, no.
He wasn't mad. Anyway, thank you so much for being on. Have a wonderful afternoon. And we will be back next week with a Zoom call on time management.